Okay, this is our first lesson in Unit 1415. 1415 is all about working with linear equations. In particular, they try to show you a number of techniques that you can use to find the equation of a straight line given some information. But in box A here, what we're really interested in doing is taking an equation that we know is a linear equation and converting it between two forms. So we want to be able to convert from y equals mx plus b form to standard form, and from standard form to y equals mx plus b form. Now, y equals mx plus b form is the form that we have already encountered. And we use that a lot in Unit 1213. This is often called slope-intercept form. Why is it called that? Well, because when you have the equation in this form, you know that this number m here that is multiplied by your x is the value of the slope. And you know that this thing that gets added onto the end or subtracted off the end is your intercept, your y-intercept. So, because the slope and the y-intercept come out of this equation very, very easily, we call this slope y-intercept form, or slope-intercept form. The other form that we are interested in, so I basically just told you all of this stuff right here. Slope y-intercept form, m is the slope, this is the intercept. So slope y-intercept form is a very, very useful form to have your equation in, because you can use the slope and the intercept to sketch a graph of the equation very, very easily, and it tells you some information about it. The other form that you will see linear equations put in is what is called standard form. That's the one over here on the right. And it usually looks like this: ax plus by plus c equals 0. A, b, and c are just numbers. Okay, they're coefficients. So a, b, c are numbers. Okay, and standard form is kind of picky about what those numbers are. In the standard form, a, b, and c cannot be fractions or decimals, and a must be positive. That coefficient on x is positive. Okay. So something like, let's pick a color here, negative 2x plus 3y plus 7 equals 0 is not standard form, because the coefficient on x is negative 2. And a, that coefficient on x, must be positive. So right here, here's an example of something that is in standard form: 2x plus 3y minus 6 equals 0. We've got a, b, c are all whole numbers. They're not fractions, and a is a positive number. Okay. Something like, let's do it in blue again here. 2x plus 7/8 y minus 2 equals 0. Is that in standard form? What do you think? Emerson's shaking his head. Why not? Yeah, can't have those fractions in there. So we're going to put an x to this one too. Okay? And over here on the left, I just got a usual example of something that is in slope y-intercept form. So what we want to do in this, at the end of this lesson, is be able to go from this form to this form, and from this form back to this form. So you've got the instructions written there on the right-hand side of your page to convert to standard form. So if you have something in y equals mx plus b form, or slope y-intercept form, the first thing you want to do is move all of the terms to one side using opposite operations, just like we did back in 5-6 when we were solving equations. Because what you notice about standard form is you've got all of these things, x, y, numbers on one side, and you've just got 0 on the other. So if we take this example here, y equals 3/5 x minus 6, first thing we want to do is we want to get this y over on to the other side of this equation here. So I'm going to subtract y over here. I'm going to subtract y over here. Y minus y is just going to cancel out, and I'll be left with 0. And then over here, I'm going to have 3/5 x minus y minus 6. The second step is to multiply all of the terms by the denominator of our fraction here. Because we don't want this fraction in here, we want to get rid of it. And the way we get rid of this fraction is we're going to multiply everything by that denominator. So I've got to multiply by 5 over here, by 5 here, by 5 here, by 5 here. Got to make sure I multiply every single term by that 5. Now, if this had been a negative 3 over 5, I'd want to multiply by negative 5, because that would also cancel out the negative sign, and it would make that a positive. So 0 times 5 gives me 0. 3 over 5 times 5 just gives me 3. 5 times negative 1 gives me negative 5y, and then minus 30. And there we are, standard form. All right, let's try the next one here. We've got y equals 2x plus 3 over 4. Okay, and let's just change this up a little bit. Let's make it negative 2x out front there. Just put a negative sign in there. First step is going to be the same. We want to get this y over to the other side. So I'm going to subtract y here, subtract y over here, and that's going to give us 0 equals negative 2x minus y plus 3 over 4. Where do we go from here? Well, we want to get rid of that fraction. So we look at the denominator. It's a 4, so we've got to multiply everything by 4. So times 4, times 4, times 4, and times 4. But our coefficient here on x is negative. So we want to get rid of that negative sign at the same time. And to do that, we can multiply everything by not 4, but negative 4. So 0 times negative 4 is 0. Negative 2 times negative 4 is going to give us 8x. Negative 4 times negative y plus 4y. Negative 4 times 3 is negative 12. Divided by 4 just gives us negative 3. And there we are. Standard form. Okay. So we're halfway there. We know how to take something in y equals mx plus b form, convert it into standard form. What if we want to go the other way? Here we have two equations that are in standard form. We want to put them into slope y-intercept form. Again, you've got the two instructions listed on the right side of your page. First thing we want to do is we want to move the y term over to the other side. And then we want to divide everything by the coefficient of y. So let's take this one here. First thing we want to do is let's get this 3y by itself over here. So we're going to do that by subtracting a 3y there, subtracting a 3y there. That gets us 2x minus 6 equals negative 3y. And we do this because we know that this plus 3y and that minus 3y are going to cancel. Next step, we want to get y all by itself. So we're going to divide everything by that coefficient that we see on the y. And this is the step to remember. We've got to divide each and every term by that negative 3. So 2 divided by negative 3 gives us negative 2 over 3. And I'm just going to leave that as a fraction because that's the coefficient on x. Negative 6 divided by negative 3 is positive 2. And of course, the negative 3 and the negative 3 cancel. And we're just left with y. So here we are in slope y-intercept form. Y equals negative 2/3 x plus 2. All right, let's do one last example here. We've got 4x minus 3y plus 2 equals 0. What am I going to do first here? Who's going to help me out? Jackie, what do you think we should do first? All right. Add 3y to both sides. We know that it's going to cancel out on that side. So we're going to end up with 4x plus 2 equals 3y. And what are we going to do next? Andrew, what are we going to do next? We want to get that y all by itself, right? Divide by 3. And the thing we have to remember is everything gets divided by 3. Okay? And I do it term by term by term, just to remind myself that everything gets divided by 3. So on the right side, those 3's cancel. Over here, I'm going to have 4/3 x plus 2/3 equals y. And there's my equation. Y equals 4/3 x plus 2/3. Okay. And remember, if you get a fraction for that coefficient on x, just leave it as a fraction, because that fraction is your slope. And when you leave that as 4/3, you're reminding yourself that the rise is 4 and the run is 3. So that gives you a little bit of information that can help you graph your equation. Okay. And that's all we're going to do.